Part 87. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 861. Chapter 861, Responsibility, Lifetime Term. Hanzaja licked his lower lip, still thinking about the kiss just now that was not a kiss. Hanzaja, what should I do? Although I hate you, I find that I like you more. Muniankai lowered her head and said this silently. Hanzaja's heart softened, and after being stunned for a while, his face showed an expression of joy. Are you serious? Hanzaja felt like he was dreaming, but when he pinched himself, the severe pain let him know that he was not dreaming. But since it's not a dream, why is it so beautiful and unrealistic? What are you doing? Muniankai looked at Hanzaja's series of actions and asked. I'm afraid I'm dreaming. Hanzaja showed off his head and smiled brightly. Muniankai looked at Hanzaja's warm smile under the sun and laughed along with him. Hey, you look really good without makeup. Hanzaja looked at Muniankai's face and suddenly started to tease her. Muniankai's face immediately darkened, thinking that she had shed tears last night, and now she must be wearing makeup like a ghost. What do you mean? Speak clearly. Muniankai put her hands on her hips and said angrily. This guy is still so annoying. It looks really good. Hanzaja leaned over with a smile, blew into Muniankai's ear, and then kissed Muniankai's cheek. Muniankai was so aroused by Hanzaja that she pushed him away and said, You bastard, you know what I'm doing. Hanzaja grinned and said, You're being unreasonable. Who's the bastard? Who just kissed me on the street? By the way, our Miss Mew is quite aggressive, and she likes to play this tough game style. Muniankai blushed immediately after being teased by Hanzaja. I won't talk to you anymore. Muniankai pushed Hanzaja away and turned to leave. How could Hanzaja be willing to let her go? How could he let her run away so easily after finally catching the little fat sheep? Hanzaja grabbed Muniankai's wrist, pulled her into his arms, rested his chin on Muniankai's head, and clasped her waist with both hands to prevent her from moving. It seems immoral to run away after taking advantage, right? Then what do you want to do? Muniankai nuzzled into Hanzaja's arms and found that Hanzaja's smell was particularly fresh and pleasant, with a calm and reserved feeling, which was completely different from the flamboyant person he seemed to be. Responsible. Muniankai stopped talking. The time limit is a lifetime. Hanzaja continued. Muniankai was in Hanzaja's arms, smiling lowly. The first thing Xia Ying did when she arrived at the company was to call in the trainees for questioning. After those few figured out the situation, they all felt extremely aggrieved, but in front of Xia Ying, they dared not speak out in anger. Co-author Xia Ying is really planning to sign the contract with the four-eyed chicken? He is short, ugly, and rustic. Even if he has great talent, how can he become famous? At most, you can only write lyrics and music behind the scenes. Even if you really become a singer, you won't become famous. They have begun to doubt Xia Ying's vision. They let the good-looking and promising people like them not sign the contract, but they chose that short and poor guy, haha. I see that you have not made any substantial progress since you have been in the company for so long, and you have such character. To be honest, even if you become popular in the future, you will become confused soon. Xia Ying said quietly, You guys, let's go, our company doesn't need you anymore. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 862. Chapter 862, All human beings are equal. When those people heard this, they looked at each other and were dumbfounded. They were still digesting this kind of news that was like a bolt from the blue for a while, and they couldn't accept it at all. Old boss, are you serious? One of them asked hesitantly. Xia Ying nodded without hesitation, You can pack your things and leave now. But, why? We just told the truth, and boss, Don't you think that kind of ugly and low country, people like that have no potential to be stars? One of the brave ones retorted unconvinced. Xia Ying became even more angry when she heard this. After her parents gave these people a good-looking face and a good family, they started to show their superiority in various ways, looking down on country people and people who are not so good-looking. All humans are born equal. Xia Ying said with a cold face, you look down on other people's looks and family background, and others look down on you for being an empty shell, just trying to stand at the top. Xia Ying rarely said such hurtful words, but at this moment, she really couldn't bear it anymore. This group of people is really too presumptuous. Sure enough, as soon as Xia Ying said these words, the group of people clenched their fists tightly and gritted their teeth, wanting to refute on the spot. However, because Xia Ying was so powerful and did not dare to offend, they had no choice but to hold back their anger silently in their hearts. The group of people left Xia Ying's office angrily. When they opened the door, they happened to meet Liangye, who was about to knock on the door. Liangye specially changed into his best clothes, but they were just the off-brand suits he bought that day. When Liangye met the eyes of the group of people, he was not as timid as he was that day. Liangye's eyes at this moment were obviously aggressive. Of course he was not holding grudges, but the eyes of the group of people looking at him were still full of contempt and contempt. Liangye knew that he had nothing to be proud of, but he had never felt inferior because he was a child from the mountains. What he has always been inferior to is his appearance. But things are different now. Xia Ying signed a contract with him, and Liangye felt that he would become popular no matter what. Not only for myself, but also for Xia Ying. She was so kind to herself, holding back the wings of his dream when she was about to give up on it. Liangye was very excited now and wished he could write 100 songs right away to prove her vision to Xia Ying. Of course, Liangye now has the confidence to stand in front of that group of people. Xia Ying affirmed his talent, and Liangye was like a child who was rewarded and recognized by the teacher, and his heart was full of pride. Liangye, right, I remember you. One of them gritted his teeth and said. Well, you'd better remember, Liangye said with a stern face, this is the last time you will be so close to me. From now on, I will only be enough for you to look up to. Liangye didn't know what was wrong with him at the moment. He just felt that Xia Ying was inside, looking at him, and he couldn't embarrass her. Even if he is just exaggerating, he must be confident. He wants to get angry and try his best. Yo, your lung capacity is amazing, your lungs are so strong. The group of people smiled and turned around and left. Liangye said no more, but knocked on the door, and Xia Ying asked him to come in. Actually, Xia Ying had seen the scene just now and was very satisfied with Liangye's changes now. He has become more confident. This is what Xia Ying wants from Liangye. Facing music, he is the king. The last exam is tomorrow. So there are only 4 updates today, I will update them tomorrow. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 863. Chapter 863. Our company has signed a new employee. Not long after Liangye came in, Sister Wan and the new assistant came over. Xia Ying officially started the introduction. Xia Ying stood up, walked to Liangye's side, patted Liangye's shoulder, rolled her eyes, and said to them, Liangye, the future singing superstar. When Liangye heard Xia Ying's words, his body instinctively slumped and he almost lost his balance. As expected, Xia Ying is still so confident in him. Sister Wan and her assistant looked at Liangye from above to the ground in a very official manner with no expression on their faces. Although he looked unremarkable, even a little dull, since it was the person Xia Ying had taken a liking to, they naturally had to pay more attention to him. Looking at how popular Jianyin's is now, you know that Liang Ye must not be far behind. What's more, Xia Ying also said that Liang Ye can write lyrics and compose music, and is a singer-songwriter. This is your agent, Sister Wan, who is also Jianyin's agent. This is your assistant, Xiao Fang. Xia Ying introduced. Liang Ye bowed to them at a 90-degree angle, and the moment he lowered his head, he was just trying to hide his inner panic. Jianyin's manager, he has just arrived, and Xia Ying's treatment for him is probably too high, as if he is already famous. Liang Ye felt a little frightened, but fortunately he adjusted in time so that he wouldn't break out in a cold sweat. Xia Ying said that you are good at writing songs. I just like writing songs, and I'm very good at it, but I can't say that. Liang Ye scratched his head and said humbly. Then, let's see. Sister Wan stared at the old notebook Liang Ye held in his hand. From the looks of it, he must have written a lot. Sister Wan is Xia Ying's manager that she hired from another company. Naturally, Xia Ying relies on her memory advantage in her previous life to know that Sister Wan is very capable and the people she brings out are all popular. Good. Liang Ye wiped the notebook twice before handing it to Sister Wan. Sister Wan flipped through a few songs at random, and her assistant was watching. Xia Ying went over to join in the fun. Several people looked at it, with unanimous smiles of satisfaction on their faces. Sister Wan feels that Xia Ying's vision is indeed unique, and the songs written by Liang Ye are really quite good. You asked me to release an album for him early. I think these songs are enough. Sister Wan flipped through a few more pages. Then pick out 10 songs from these and prepare for an album. Xia Ying echoed. Release an album. Liang Ye's eyes widened at the side. He felt that after meeting Xia Ying, these days were like a dream, as beautiful as soap bubbles under the sun, so Liang Ye was also afraid that such bubbles would be fragile. Did you hear that the company signed a new employee? At this time, Jianyin's fluffy silver hair poked out. Everyone turned to look at him. Jianyin's had a clean and charming smile on his face. This guy was really a smile killer. Liang Ye saw Jianyin's up close for the first time, and Jianyin's was now furious. He is even prettier in person than he looks on TV, he is like a handsome boy straight out of a comic book. Looking back at himself, Liang Ye felt a little inferior to himself. Just in time, come over and get to know him. He is a great talent. He will learn how to write songs and compose music from others. Xia Ying has recently been interested in cultivating Jianyin's into an all-round singer, not just a singer, but also a songwriter. But this kind of thing also depends on talent. After studying for so long, Jianyin still couldn't write a piece of music that satisfied Xia Ying. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 864. Chapter 864, It's okay to be afraid of the strong, but not to bully the weak. Jianyin's was also very obedient and walked towards Liang Ye with a poop. Liang Ye then saw Jianyin's full face. Jianyin's was very tall, 188 centimeters tall, with male model proportions, but a delicate face as big as a palm. He didn't know how he grew. Liang Ye's height was only 1.77 centimeters tall, which was related to lack of nutrition when he was a child and his lack of good genes. Therefore, standing next to such a perfect handsome boy, Liang Ye looked short and humble. Liang Ye unconsciously lowered his head silently. Hello, I'm Jianyin's. Please take good care of me in the future. Jianyin smiled and hugged Liang Ye. Hey, you're a little thing, come exercise with me in the future. Jianyin's turned on the chatter mode. Jianyin's has always been the only artist signed by Xia Ying Company, so he has always felt pitiful and helpless. He was bullied by a group of people, and he couldn't resist. Now that there is a new person, Jianyin's feels that he finally has a companion. Even if you are being bullied, there is still someone you can complain with and say bad things about your boss behind his back. Hello, my name is Liang Ye. Liang Ye looked up at Jian Yin's. Even from this angle, his face was impeccable. Jian Yin's, you are not allowed to bully Liang Ye. Xia Ying said, he is the one I signed to be the treasurer of the treasurer. Jian Yin's curled his lips and said aggrievedly, am I not the treasurer of our company? You are the frontman, understand your position, this person has a bright future, so you must keep a good relationship with others. Xia Ying had no intention of giving Jian Yin's any face. Boss Anla, Anlaxia, my son of light is the embodiment of justice and will not do such things that bully the weak and fear the strong. It is okay to be afraid of the strong, but not to bully the weak. Okay, then you can take Liang Ye to get familiar with the company environment. Please. Jian Yin's happily took over this task. As long as he had time to be lazy, Jian Yin's was happy to accept it. Just at this time, Yu Lingfeng opened the door and came in. Yu Lingfeng thought Xia Ying was the only one there, so she didn't knock on the door. She opened the door very naturally and prepared to come over, carrying hot porridge and steamed buns. Yu Lingfeng's sudden appearance aroused intense onlookers. Yu Lingfeng wore a black mask and had a picturesque look on his face. When he looked at everyone, everything he looked at was stunning. How could there be such a beautiful person? Moreover, he has a tall figure. Even if he is wearing the most ordinary t-shirt, he still exudes a charming smell of male hormones. I'm sorry, I didn't know you were talking about business. Yu Lingfeng spoke indifferently and prepared to lead the door out. Hey, wait, it's okay, we've finished talking. Sister Wan, who had always been dignified, started to panic. When she first started to speak, her tongue was a little knotted and she almost couldn't straighten it. Speaking of which, this man is really good looking, and his voice is also seductive. I really want to take off his mask and see what kind of condition this face is like. Although everyone in the company knows that Xia Ying has a boyfriend and has seen it on Weibo, he is also a boyfriend with nice hands. They had seen Yu Lingfeng come to the company to pick up Xia Ying before, but they always watched from a distance. This was the first time they were so close. Sister Wan used her career as an agent to guarantee that this man must be handsome and refined. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 865. Chapter 865 The Breakfast of Love brought by Brother Yudi. Yu Lingfeng ignored the other people's foolish looks and looked at Xia Ying. Xia Ying nodded, and then Yu Lingfeng walked in. Yu Lingfeng put breakfast on the table, then sat on the sofa nearby. He picked up a financial magazine on the coffee table and started reading. Yu Lingfeng crossed his legs and crossed his legs. Even with his legs crossed, he looks noble and elegant. This man is simply the best. Who is this person? Liang Ye asked Jian Yin's beside him in a low voice, in a voice that only they could hear. Looking powerful, not like an ordinary person. Looking at him, he doesn't look like a star, because the brilliance he possesses is not comparable to that of ordinary entertainment stars. He looks like an emperor in the feudal era who was inferior to one person and surpassed 10,000 people. Every move makes people hold their breath and dare not make a sound, for fear that they will be ordered to judge by him in the next second. Jian Yin smiled and raised his voice maliciously, "Oh, you don't even know about him? This is our boss Xia's sweetheart's boyfriend." Xia Ying saw Jian Yin's strange accent and gave him a roll of her eyes. "Is this guy an opera singer? Who are you singing the tune to for such a long time?" Jian Yin said that Yu Lingfeng was hidden by Xia Ying Jinwu because it has been so long that Jian Yin's has not seen Yu Lingfeng's true face. How mysterious is this person? Jian Yin's picked up Xia Ying's clothes more than once and asked Xia Ying why Yu Lingfeng kept wearing a mask. Xia Ying's answer at that time was that she was afraid of making you feel inferior. Jian Yin said he has never felt inferior because of his appearance since he was a child, right? As soon as Qianyin's joke came out, someone who was sitting on the sofa reading a magazine became uncomfortable. He didn't know when his ears turned red. Xia Ying noticed something was wrong with Yu Lingfeng, and immediately started to chase people away. Okay, you guys go to work quickly, I want to have breakfast. It's the loving breakfast brought by our brother Yudi. Qianyins winked at Xia Ying in a disgraceful manner, and then he knew that he was asking for a beating, but he was very happy about it, so he ran out with a strong desire to survive. Xia Ying looked at Qianyins with her eyes. Wouldn't this guy live well? You must seek death. And what the is brother Yudi? Doesn't a middle schooler's mouth have any normal words in its mouth? Everyone else suppressed their laughter and went out in a very sensible manner. After they left, Xia Ying looked at Yu Lingfeng, who was pretending to be calm on the sofa with a smile. Yu Lingfeng, if you want to hit Qianyins, I don't mind at all, just remember not to hit him in the face. Yu Lingfeng put down the magazine and looked at Xia Ying. Eat quickly. You have a bad stomach, so you have to eat breakfast. Xia Ying smiled and nodded, then sat down, opened the box, and started eating breakfast happily. Yu Lingfeng kept staring at Xia Ying with a smile in his eyes. It was obvious that he had been looking at her for so long, but he couldn't get enough of her. I wish I could look at her every moment. Yu Lingfeng, today's breakfast is particularly delicious. Xia Ying looked up at Yu Lingfeng and said with a smile. That's because you're hungry. Yu Lingfeng exposed it without saltiness. Xia Ying curled her lips and said dissatisfied, you are really uninteresting. You should say that because you brought it, it tastes good. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 866. Chapter 866 Wrong Ci is back. Yu Lingfeng half closed his eyes and smiled, looking at Xia Ying, his tenderness deepened a little. Xia Ying also responded to Yu Lingfeng with a silly smile. Qianyins was taking Liang Ye to familiarize himself with the company's environment corner by corner. At this time, suddenly a person bumped into his field of vision. The smile on Qianyin's face gradually melted away like the snow seeing the sun. Liang Ye was still looking around curiously, and Qianyin's introductory words came to an abrupt end. Liang Ye looked back at Qianyin's in confusion and asked, What's wrong? Qianyin stared at a certain place in trance, with waves of light surging in his pupils. At this moment, Qianyin's was no longer smiling and joking like usual, but instead looked extremely serious. Liang Ye followed Qianyin's gaze and saw a tall and straight figure standing at the entrance of the elevator. Although it was just a profile, Liang Ye could see that the man was very handsome. He just stood there, waiting for the elevator quietly, without saying anything, and it was unusually pleasing to the eye. Not long after, the elevator arrived and the man walked in. Qianyins gradually withdrew his gaze. But he hasn't had time to digest the emotion just now, and his face still doesn't look good. Who's that person? Liang Ye asked cautiously, not out of curiosity, but out of concern. He always felt that after Qianyin saw that person, his whole person became different, as if he was a different person. It's nothing, he's just a friend of the boss. Qianyin's was careless and didn't plan to say anything more to Liang Ye. After adjusting his condition, he led Liang Ye to start wandering around. 11 Ju arrived at Xia Ying's office and knocked on the door. Yu Lingfeng came to open the door. When Yu Lingfeng's face appeared in 11 Ju's sight, 11 Ju immediately showed a standard smile. Yu Lingfeng saw it was 11 Ju and quickly let him in. He took off the mask he had put on in a hurry. Lord, son. Ziyu's eyes fell on Yu Lingfeng's lips, which were stained with red. Yu Lingfeng's lips were always very light, so any color would be noticeable. So, 11 Ju's face turned red as he looked at it. It was not difficult to know where the color on Yu Lingfeng's lips came from. 11 Ju subconsciously turned his head and glanced at Xia Ying. Xia Ying's eyes were a little evasive. It seemed that the temptation and shock in 11 Ju's eyes were too obvious, which made Xia Ying panic for a moment. Yu Lingfeng seemed to know something, so he coughed to cover up his embarrassment, then reached out and wiped it on his lips, pretending to be calm, and looked at 11 Ju. "What's the matter?" "Oh." Only then did 11 Ju realize what he was here for, so he quickly adjusted his mood and replied, "The news just came from Jun Chennai. Rong Ci is back, and Sanskrit is also brought back by him." Yu Lingfeng and Xia Ying were both surprised and looked at each other. Rong Ci has disappeared for a long time, and there has been no news about him. Yu Lingfeng also looked for him many times, but there were no clues. Now, he is finally back. Jun Chennai said that Rong Ci has not changed much. He just didn't mention it at all when he asked about the shadow hunters. As for the Sanskrit sound, it seems that he lost his memory or something. Anyway, he never spoke much, only talked to Rong Ci. Relatively intimate, and behaves a bit strangely. Zihu added. "Let's go over and have a look sometime." Yu Lingfeng looked at Xia Ying. Xia Ying nodded. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 867. Chapter 867. 11 Ju has been very worried lately. Is there anything else going on at Jun Chennai's side recently? Yu Lingfeng asked again. During this period, 11 Ju has been keeping in touch with Jun Chennai. If the mastermind behind the scenes is not caught for a day, the tight string in their hearts will not be loosened for a day. No. 11 Ju shook his head. Although Jun Chennai is working under his parents' company now, people in the Jun family also know about it. But he always disagreed. After all, since the last meeting, the only candidates for successor were Jun Xianyun and Jun Liang. Jun Chennai had been kicked out long ago. Even if he does achieve something, he will not be taken into consideration. After all, in their opinion, Jun Chennai's behavior was just because he had to find something to do because his face was ruined. They only find it pathetic, not threatening. What's more, Jun Chennai's doctor also said that Jun Chennai's brain can have problems anytime and anywhere. Now he has lost his memory. In the future, he might wake up one day and still lose his memory. It is absolutely impossible for such a person to become the successor of the Jun family. Of course, all of this is just the rhetoric prepared by Jun Chennai for them, with the purpose of making them relax their vigilance against him. In fact, he has always been very good. His amnesia is fake, and his mental illness is also fake, but the trauma he suffered from his family, both physically and mentally, is real. Keep in touch. Yes. 11 Ju nodded. By the way, I made a new system for you some time ago, although it's not perfect yet. You can try it out first. Yu Lingfeng spoke calmly and said to 11 Ju. He has said before that if he wants 11 Ju to be infinitely close to humans, it would be best if he could age and even die like humans. 11 Ju was created by Yu Lingfeng. Every move he made and nothing he thought about could escape Yu Lingfeng's eyes. Yu Lingfeng knew that he and Qianyins had broken up, but Yu Lingfeng also knew that 11 Ju didn't mean anything. He just didn't want to embarrass Qianyins or Yu Lingfeng. He is a bunch of emotionless machines and should not have such human emotions. This is not allowed. Zihu's eyes lit up and he bit his lip. He originally wanted to say no, but he didn't have the heart to refuse Yu Lingfeng's kindness. He just said in a low voice, "Okay." He also knew that Yu Lingfeng often ran to the laboratory some time ago. It turned out that he was doing it for himself. When 11 Ju first had his thoughts, he felt that he was too happy. But now, 11 Ju began to regret that he was too developed. It would be better if he didn't understand anything. Knowing everything is a burden. After 11 Ju left, Xia Ying approached Yu Lingfeng with a sad expression. Yu Lingfeng, 11 Ju has been very worried recently. Okay, I know. Yu Lingfeng just stared at the door and said to himself. As soon as 11 Ju walked into the hall, he saw Qian Yin's. Next to Qian Yin's was a short and ignorant Liang Ye. Both people subconsciously stopped and stared at each other. It is clear that the other person in my heart makes my heart melt when I think about it, but at this moment, I look at each other coldly like an enemy. Especially Qian Yin's, who couldn't hide the hatred in his eyes. Liang Ye looked on in confusion. What on earth was going on between these two people? Liang Ye was still thinking about something when Qian Yin suddenly stretched out his hand and put his hand affectionately on Liang Ye's shoulder, pulling Liang Ye, who was much shorter than him, closer to his body. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuan Suya. Chapter 868. Chapter 868, Being Woken Up Early in the Morning. 11 Ju's pupils suddenly shrank. Although he thought that Qian Yin's might have done it to show him on purpose, 11 Ju's heart still twitched violently. But fortunately, he is a robot, and his self-control is superior. 11 Ju was neither salty nor bland, with no trace on his face. He held his head high and passed by Qian Yin's with a blind eye. Qian Yin's lowered hand clenched into a fist and let go of Liang Ye, who looked confused. His brows were knitted tightly, and his teeth were chattering with anger. Liang Ye saw that Qian Yin's expression was not right, and thought about the scene that just made him confused. He wanted to comfort Qian Yin's but couldn't find anything to say. Liang Ye organized his words in his mind for a long time before he hesitated and said, Qian Yin's, it's nothing to have conflicts between brothers. It can be solved by drinking. Although Liang Ye was not confident enough, he still maintained his tone and did not weaken. Qian Yin's glanced sideways at Liang Ye. You know nothing. Liang Ye was startled by Qian Yin's scolding. Before he could realize why he had been scolded, Qian Yin's had already walked away on his long legs. Qian Yin's has always regarded himself as a messenger of light, so he naturally maintains an attitude of I am a compassionate Buddha. He rarely curses others and rarely even raises his voice to speak to others. This was a rare moment for him to lose control, because it was obviously him who provoked him first, and then slapped his and left. At this time, Liang Ye was busy preparing to release the album. Xia Ying had less things to do, so he went to the United States with Yu Lingfeng. Jun Chennai learned the news in advance, so he postponed the schedule in advance. When Yu Lingfeng and Xia Ying came over, Jun Chennai had just walked to the living room with a chicken coop on his head, yawning and looking sleepy due to jet lag. Oh shit. Jun Chennai was frightened by the sudden appearance of the two people and subconsciously cursed. Xia Ying looked at Jun Chennai and said with a smile, Are you still crowing so early in the morning? Jun Chennai rolled his eyes, quickly pulled at his messy chicken head twice, then sat down and looked at the two people in front of him. I said, why didn't you notify me in advance when you were coming? Had I known that he should have prepared, at least combed his hair. Didn't I tell you that I would come today? Xia Ying disagreed. Then how do I know? Jun Chennai paused, glanced at the clock on the wall, and then raised the volume. How did I know you would be here after 5 o'clock? Aren't you up? Xia Ying spread her hands and continued to fight with him. But I'm still going to take a nap. Jun Chennai curled his lips. Come on, you can't sleep now anyway. Xia Ying looked around again. Where are Rong Si and Fanyan? Who has nothing to do to get up at this hour? After Jun Chennai said this just now, he thought about it and felt something was wrong. He pursed his lips and stopped continuing the topic. Has anything strange happened recently? Yu Lingfeng spoke calmly. Jun Chennai glanced at Xia Ying and Yu Lingfeng slowly and leisurely. It's the worst thing to find two uninvited guests at home so early in the morning. I'm talking to you seriously, Don't be poor. Xia Ying interrupted Jun Chennai. No, it's normal. Jun Chennai's face was calm, except for that Sanskrit, he still doesn't like to talk to others. Wrong Ci is quite normal. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 869. Chapter 869, She is so afraid of those people. Yu Lingfeng had a sullen expression and said nothing. Then he stood up, walked elsewhere, and made a phone call. Not long after, Yu Lingfeng came over and said to Xia Ying, I'll bring 11 Ju here. Xia Ying nodded. Yu Lingfeng left. Xia Ying and Jun Chennai were the only two people left in the living room. Jun Chennai thought of something and asked Xia Ying, Hey, I heard from old Turtle Dove that you and Yu Lingfeng are about to get engaged. Xia Ying was stunned by Jun Chennai's endless question, and she immediately stopped drinking water. Well, yes, probably, it will be about this summer vacation. Xia Ying put down the water glass and said. When the date is confirmed, tell me and I will write a song for you. Jun Chennai leaned back on the sofa, with a look on his face that was hard to understand, but somewhat understandable. It came out with a smiling expression, I haven't written a song for a long time, and my hands are a little itchy. Good. Xia Ying pursed her lips and said no more. When Yu Lingfeng came back, besides 11 Ju, he also brought one more person with him. It happened that the company had nothing to do, and they knew that Xia Ying and the others were looking for Jun Chennai, so they rushed over to join in the fun with Chu Shenxiu. Sure enough, wherever there is excitement, there is this noisy big turtle dove. As soon as Jun Chennai saw Chu Shenxiu, his face showed no good expression. He rolled his eyes in a rather gorgeous and exaggerated way, Why are you everywhere? I am wherever my cousin Sakura is. What's wrong, isn't it allowed? Chu Shenxiu still raised his head with a proud face. Jun Chennai was too lazy to talk to this childish ghost. Just at this time, Rong Ci and Fanyan came out. The living room was so noisy. When he came out, he saw that there were so many people. Rong Ci glanced around at everyone's faces, then put away the shock in his eyes, and then slowly said, Why are you all here? Seeing so many people, Fanyan instinctively shrank behind Rong Ci with a frightened expression on his face. The hand holding Rong Ci's arm was trembling. That look was truly fearful. Rong Ci stretched out his hand gently, looked at Fanyan with gentle eyes, stroked her head for a while, and said softly, They are all my friends, not bad people. However, Fanyan finally ran away, ran back to the room, and locked himself in it. Everyone looked surprised, but Jun Chennai looked like he was used to it and said in a low voice, I told you, Fanyan doesn't like to talk. Xia Ying echoed, It's already, not just that I don't like to talk anymore. She is obviously so afraid of people like them. I'm sorry, Fanyan is a little shy. I'm going to comfort her and will be back in a moment. Rong Ci said to everyone, and then began to knock on the door, speaking patiently to the Sanskrit voice inside the door again and again, San Yin, if you open the door, it's me. There is no bad person. If you open the door, it's me, it's Rong Ci. Xia Ying frowned, what happened to Fanyan? Although she used to be cold and aloof, it only made others fear her. Why did she suddenly become so afraid of life? She was like this when she saw me for the first time. It would be better if she saw me more. Jun Chennai said to everyone. Xia Ying's heart was full of mixed feelings, she just stared at Rong Ci who was still calling the door. After a while, Fanyan tentatively opened a crack in the door, and a pair of frightened and helpless expressions peeked out, seeing Rong Ci. When there was no one around Ci, she opened the door. After Rong Ci went in, She immediately closed the door tightly. End of this chapter. The Return of the National Goddess. Author, Yuen Suya. Chapter 870. Chapter 870. He will always take care of her. That is no longer the Sanskrit sound from before. It can be seen from his eyes that he looks like a completely different person. Xia Ying took a breath of cold air, feeling mixed in her heart. After a long time, Rong Si walked out of the room alone. Rong Si said sorry in a low voice, and then sat on the sofa. Everyone's eyes fell on Rong Si. What's up with her? Xia Ying asked in a cautious tone. She has lost her memory. Rong Si first put forward the key points, and then slowly explained, since she has quit the Shadow Hunters organization, she must not be able to take the organization's memories with her, as this will reveal the organization's secrets. I don't know what method they used, but Fanyan the memory now is from a long time ago, probably before she joined the Shadow Hunter organization. In other words, the way Fanyan looks like now is not because of anything they did, but because she was like this at that time. Yu Lingfeng usually doesn't speak, but when he speaks, it's the finishing touch. As expected, everyone was stunned for a moment and then turned their heads to look at Rong Si. Rong Si pursed his lips tightly, his eyes sparkling, and nodded with difficulty. Rong Si also didn't know until then that Fanyan, who was forced away by them at that time, had become like that. Rong Si didn't know what Fanyan had gone through, what she had gone through from the time she met Rong Si to the time she left Rong Si, but one thing Rong Si knew clearly was that she must have suffered severe physical and mental trauma. At first, Fanyan wouldn't let Rong Kai touch her, and she would tremble even if he touched a hair on her head. Later, slowly, she gradually accepted Rong Si. Rong Si is the only person in Fanyan's tall heart wall who can come and go freely. Others are blocked by her wall. Fanyan keeps saying that there are bad people who will beat her and bully her. Every time she talks about this, her eyes are so helpless and her voice is whimpering. Rong Si felt really uncomfortable when he saw her look like that. Rong Si has always felt that he was sorry for Fanyan, so now he is working tirelessly and giving up everything to take care of Fanyan, which can be regarded as making up for his mistakes over the years. But, how old was she at that time? Just thinking about it makes 11 Ju tremble with fear. How painful an experience must be to leave such a psychological shadow on a young girl. She didn't want to tell me more about what happened at that time, and I didn't want to expose her scars. In short, I will be by her side and take care of her every day from now on. Said to everyone in a formal and oath-like manner. Then you joined the Shadow Hunters, what did they do to you? Yu Lingfeng asked in a cold voice. Jun Chenai said that Rong Si never answered this question directly. But what Yu Lingfeng wanted to know, he must know no matter what. Rong Si was silent for a long time, and then sighed deeply, I can't say that, it's a rule. Did they threaten you with Sanskrit sounds and not let you speak? Yu Lingfeng continued to speculate. Rong Si didn't make any response, and his face was so calm that no one could see any clues. After testing for a while, Yu Lingfeng stopped asking any more questions. Just at this time, the servant came over to call for dinner. Everyone stood up and walked to the restaurant, but Yu Lingfeng walked up to Rong Si without noticing and whispered a declarative question in a voice that only they could hear, the leader behind the Shadow Hunters is your biological father. End of this chapter.